Okay, everyone. So I'm gonna make a video about Ashes of Creation. Well, you guys just sit right there. I'm gonna write the script. I mean, business now. I'm putting my hair up. Okay, now that I'm done writing my script and my overall outline, let me take my hair down and then we can start talking about it. I don't have enough hair to do like a dramatic hair flip type thing. What is going on here? So, this is a video, one of the many videos that is currently being produced, marketed, and pushed on YouTube. Not pushed, but hopefully pushed by people about Ashes of Creation. So I thought I would throw my hat in the ring, of course, and my whole body, hopefully land on a couple people, maybe break some bones. But I'm not paying for your medical bills. I'm sorry. Ashes of Creation is a baby MMO. It's not necessarily new. It's been announced for quite some time, and it's been on everyone's radar, but it's getting a lot of traction right now. So this is ample time to make a video. But Ashes of Creation is an MMORPG created by Intrepid Studios and is currently in pre-alpha. So I'm going to give my hot take on Ashes of Creation and go over a couple of the systems and pieces of information that we know, and go over maybe some gameplay that we've seen, so on and so forth. So, I have a script now. I'm being fully transparent because, yeah, I need help and I need guidance. So Ashes of Creation popped into my field of view quite some time ago, and was rather quite gripping with their very first trailer, I would call it, gameplay showcase, where they did a mock demo reel of what the game would look like and had some spell effects, and it was really cool looking. Of course, these were always like early, prototypes to sell to media and to market the game. And I gotta say it worked, because I kept my eye on Ashes of Creation for quite some time. But it seems that they kind of fell out of good faith, at least within the circles that I run in, and probably the greater MMO community. They kind of went radio silent, weren't saying much, and even if they did, they didn't get a lot of viewership or like eyes on their products. I mean, same here, sis. Just recently, Ashes of Creation seems to have mustered up some more intrigue and some more viewership and some more community draw. Lazy Peon did a video which I know got quite a lot of traction. Lazy Peon definitely has a great voice within the MMO community. I know Summit did an interview, and then of course Asmongold. So you have three big players within the video game culture making videos and content centered around this new game, this game in pre-alpha, Ashes of Creation. And it's not like Ashes of Creation was a nothing game. People already knew of it. So it was kind of a perfect storm of people already knew what it was. There was pre-existing interest. It might have dwindled down, but they kind of just threw more wood into the fire, and it kind of just went boom. And so with this new draw, Ashes of Creation seems to have done quite a lot in terms of showcasing what they've been working on, how far they've come, and of course, just to, further emphasize, this game is in pre-alpha, so there's a lot to go and a long race to run. That's what I was trying to say. So I think the best thing to do, right off the bat, is read their own mission statement to get an idea of what they're going for, what they're trying to produce, so on and so forth. So here I go. If you go to www.ashesofcreation.com/MMO, you can get to the same information I'm on. But I scrolled down to the point where they say the game, and it reads, quote, Ashes of Creation takes place within a medieval fantasy setting, blending imagination with cutting-edge graphics. We are putting the word massive back into massively multiplayer. They probably should have had an air quote around massive, or a single quote, with unique and novel mechanics that will bring meaning to player action. Ashes of Creation will incorporate the best parts of traditional MMORPGs with innovative sandbox concepts. You will choose your fate at every opportunity. Quest lines will open and close based on the interactions of the players with their world, because this is a world where choice is consequential. Monsters will roam and grow in ferocity as civilization disrupts the natural order of all things. Or not all things, I just said of things. I added the all. From the location of towns to the size of cities, you will determine the landscape of your world. It will be unique in culture, ecology, and economy. No two servers will experience Ashes of Creation in the same way. So there's a lot of, you know, I like to call it the politics of MMOs. It's a lot of vague stuff, a lot of, grabby terminology, sandbox, freedom of choice, consequences. I find that to be a consistent theme within all of the newer MMOs and MMOs in general. This idea of consequences where you matter. That's been a hot take and a buzzword in the MMO genre for quite some time now. And maybe I'll make a video fully dedicated to the idea of consequences within MMOs, but that's not the video. This is a video for Ashes of Creation and my general impressions and hot takes. So with this preamble and setup of Ashes of Creation, let me get into my impressions of Ashes of Creation, being a 12-year some odd MMO veteran. So we'll just see how it goes. Now that we've covered the online, their own mission statement on their website, let me just go over my general impressions, and I kind of compiled these into categories so it's easily digested. So the art style. There's not too much to say about the art style in general, but all I'm going to really say is that I enjoy it. I know art style is often subjective. Some people might not like the graphics, some people might like the graphics. It all just kind of depends. But I think they're pretty modern, they're clean, and they seem to be of high quality. So on the presentation side, in their graphics and the open world, I'm here for it, I'm interested. I would like to jump into that world myself, but I'm also not talking about the animations. We'll get to that in a little bit. And speaking of a little bit, let's jump into that category right now. So next category that I'm going to be talking about is the combat. Herein lies a very interesting area that many MMO players will be very focused on, the how does this game feel aspect. Well, from what I've seen, the combat is fairly tab target oriented, but they've also said to have mixed in action combat here and there on player skills. And from what I remember on a video about it, it was like you would have a limited number of tab targeting skills and then a limited number of action oriented skills. That might not be true. That could have been scrapped. But it was, I think, in Lazy Peon's video. I could be 100% mistaken, and I apologize. I should probably get my facts right. But I heard it through the grapevine, and I don't know how I feel about that. Personally, I'm quite worried about this, as it doesn't seem really fluid at the moment. Disregarding what they're trying to say, what they're saying and what they're showing might be clashing, because what they're showing is gameplay that seems a little weird and a little meh. Of course, it's pre-alpha, and I know there's going to be comments saying
it's pre-alpha, they're going to change it.
But we're still allowed to comment on it and critique it. If you don't want anyone to critique the things you're making or what you're doing, then you probably shouldn't showcase it. So that's my counter argument to people saying it's in pre-alpha. It's like, I know it's in pre-alpha. But in terms of the combat, I find the best course of action for Ashes of Creation, given that they want this hybrid feel to it, is to make their game full out action combat. Like, make it to where you have the development in mind that this is going to be an action combat game, because it's easier for players to play in a way that is representative of tab targeting if the game is action based and built with action combat in mind. It is infinitely harder for players to play in a way that is action combat oriented when you're limited to tab targeting. You can't really play action combat within World of Warcraft, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at. Action combat allows people to tab target. Tab target games don't allow people to play action combat. So, quite honestly, I would really want them to scrap this hybrid idea, because hybrid playstyles will just organically come and organically play out with the player themselves. This hybrid idea is a little sketchy, and other games that I know who try to do a hybrid didn't really work out. People did not like their combat at all. So now about the animations. The animation for combat is also really strange. Like, really strange. Like, why is the player doing a 360-degree pirouette in the middle of nothing in the air to cast a simple fireball? It doesn't make sense for the action. If it was like a larger, like you're casting a spiral dragon and you kind of slowly turn around in the air and float, like we're all suspending disbelief here. It's an MMORPG, it's magic and stuff. That would make sense. But to cast a simple fireball and do all of that, it's like, why would you even code that animation to be the animation you use to cast a simple fireball? And it looks really tiring, and it looks like it would just visually be very annoying seeing a bunch of people spin around in the air to cast a basic ability. And that animation in particular doesn't scream pre-alpha to me. That animation was a lot of work probably, but they consciously decided to program that animation into that scale, and it's like, why not just have a simple like cast animation for a simple fireball? You can have some variation with the cast, like one cycle you do right hand, and then like every 4 or 5 cycles you'll change it up with another hand and like an overhand thing or something. Like, I'll do the mocap for you guys, hire me. Not really, I mean, COVID is a little challenging, but if we ever get there. Additionally, the spell effects are really quite blinding. You can't really see too much, and I thought Guild Wars 2 had really bad visual noise. And why do games keep implementing large wizard staffs and then forcing ranged characters who are spellcasters to use them in melee range as a melee weapon when they run out of mana? I don't get it. I know they have wands and you're doing like this weird spark magic, like zap zap. Implement that to caster classes using them as a ranged weapon, using the staves as a ranged weapon. So you don't have to get into melee combat and subsequently die just because you ran out of mana. It's just like, allow us to use something at range that doesn't eat half of our mana pool. Please, for the sake of combat. I don't want to have to be crying and, you know, dying in fire just because I used one too many flash heals or something. Now, they have mentioned all of this and said that they are looking into it. It's subject to change. They're actively developing it. But I'm just saying this because, you know, Bless Online. They were also saying that they were listening to feedback and they were changing things and they were revamping the combat. But Bless Online proved that developers might not always hear the community. They might be, well, listen to the community. They're probably hearing them talk, but they're not actively listening. So I don't think that this point can be run dry. I think you can keep grinding it into development ideas because, you know, you can't, messing up combat is the Achilles heel of any game, especially MMOs. Next, the class system. So the class system has to be the single most interesting feature that will ultimately pull me into the game. It's really reminiscent of Rift. It's giving me Rift-esque vibes because you pick a main class and then later on you have the choice of picking a second class. And then those two classes make this third class in a way. So if you're playing like a ranger and then you pick like a wizard or a mage, that becomes like a wizard mage with different abilities. I hope it seems that's how they're selling it and marketing it, with new abilities, new play styles. Or if you don't want to have a second class that's different, you could pair up like a cleric with a cleric, and then you become like a high cleric or like a high priest or like a grand inquisitor or something. I don't know what it's called. So you could go really purist, or you could deviate and go a little psychedelic and get a little mixy all up in here. So questing. Questing is a feature that I'm really looking forward to as it returns to the old classical ideas of questing, where you're completing tasks asked of you from the inhabitants of the world of Ashes of Creation, but they're also doing area quests and world events to give you a little bit more incentive of, you know, a dynamic world. And once again, this is also very reminiscent of Rift with their traditional questing system, but they also had the Rift system. And honestly, I really wish Rift 2 was being developed, but I don't think that ever will happen. So I think Ashes of Creation is taking that place of Rift 2, and I couldn't be more happy. I'm going to be talking about the role-playing element, and this is a pretty big one for me. The one aspect of Ashes of Creation that has not been displayed as much as I would like has to be the role-playing element or the story element of the world. I haven't heard anything, seen any cutscenes or art pieces that tell me the story of the game, that tell me what's happening in the world, which happens to be called Vera. I don't know, it has a name, but they haven't really given it any importance. It mentions that we're returning to it, but since this is the very first game set in this world and in this environment, this world that we know Vera, players don't have much to cling to. I also understand that they mentioned that this is a sandbox MMO, or an MMO with sandbox elements, which is great and all, but when it comes to narratives and stories, those elements need to be pre-planned and executed to keep the role-playing game alive, the RPG players satisfied. They also have stated in their mission statement on their website that they put the massive back into massively multiplayer. But I just hope that they don't forget about the role play in role-playing game. It's an MMORPG. So, Ashes of Creation. It still holds many things that I haven't covered here, but I just wanted to give my quick hot take of the things that I'm really interested in and caught my eye. In all, I'm very excited for the graphics, the return to a traditional questing system, movement, and a very interesting class system, or so it seems. I'm also most concerned for the animations and the spell effects, the class hybrid combat system. I hope they refine that and either go full tab targeting or full action combat, and then players will trickle down as they may. And of course, the world's story and vitality. In all, Ashes of Creation is still a game that has a long way to go, and I would love to cover more on this baby MMO and speak on some concerns and some triumphs. So that was my little hot take of Ashes of Creation. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below your thoughts on Ashes of Creation, your own first impressions, some things you're excited for or maybe concerned about, and subscribe for more videos. I have links down below. You can check them out if you want. I have Patreon, PayPal, I have Twitter where I post memes and a Discord. So thank you everyone, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye everyone!